Over the last week, it seems like everyone has been hitting me up to get loudness equalization enabled on their system. I've had streamers, community members in my DMs, in my chat, asking me, how do I get audio like Repulse? And as you can see from his reaction here, what? It was pretty good, and that video blew up. I warned about it in the previous video. You can watch it in the description below, but the Season 2 update has fixed the bug that allowed loudness equalization to be as good as it was. An important thing to understand about video games is they don't function like a video you watch on your computer or you download. It doesn't just have two tracks. The audio engine inside of the game is creating sounds dynamically. When you shoot your gun, when you plate, when you step, all of those are mapped to different tracks, and there can be a ton of different tracks. The audio engine on the way out is supposed to flag all those different tracks of audio to be mapped down to whatever you're listening on, and that's different for everybody. Some people, like Dane Cook, play on 7.1 surround sound on huge screens. Other people, like competitive players, play on little stereo headsets. And it's very important that the engine tells the computer what format it's supposed to be at. This is what first cued me off to loudness equalization after everybody was talking about it. I wrote it off because it was just a compressor and I didn't think it should work. But I saw this note here in the developer update before Season 2. It's an audio global note. Data suggests that some PC players may be experiencing audio issues due to discrepancies in the number of channels they are outputting. We've added an option to force PC to stereo output. This sentence is so important. They said that in this update and it never rolled out. Well, it came today. And if you look in the audio settings of Call of Duty, you'll see this option's been added. There's only two options to pick here. It's either stereo or Windows default. My guess is Windows default is to be used for computers that are on like 7.1 surround sound systems that have been mapped on the computer to that so that it can output the right channels to the right places. But for most of us on headsets, you're only going to see a stereo option. The addition of this feature effectively broke loudness equalization. Before, loudness equalization was grabbing all those tracks that were not flagged to go out to your stereo headset and putting them back in, but super compressed. So footsteps were very loud, chests were very loud, but gunshots weren't too loud. And it was a perfect environment for a competitive player to use sound to their advantage. I spent all day and night testing this. Loudness equalization still does the trick, but it doesn't do it like it used to. It went from being a precise scalpel for the sounds that you need to being a very broad brushstroke. Loudness equalization will still work to a certain extent, but when loud sounds happen at the same time as quiet sounds, so if you have a streak with footsteps underneath it, because the compressor is working to make those loud sounds much quieter, with it will be taken the footsteps. This didn't happen before because of the lack of that forced stereo option. Audio tracks were going everywhere, and Loudness EQ, a very old technology, was working some wonders. If there's nothing else happening and there's footsteps coming up on you, you will hear them much louder. Chests will still be very loud. The issue arises when another loud sound happens at the same time, bearing that quiet sound underneath it. After the addition of this 4-speaker output option, there's not really a whole bunch that's going to come to match how broken loudness equalization was, because it was just that. Part of the rush of Call of Duty towards the end of last year was the audio being unfinished. Anybody that played the beta knew footsteps were very, very loud. We got the game on release and it was totally different. My best guess is that when they rushed this game to the market, the engineers weren't able to fix and close all of the bits of the audio engine. Unfortunately now, there's really only two options that work well. The first being the in-game audio preset. I'm not gonna go over every preset, but I'm gonna cover the extremes. The two I recommend are PC and home theater. Studio home theater is a little bit too quiet to use on anything but that, a studio home theater. But home theater is the least compressed of all of the audio mixes. And again, when I say compressed, I mean that it will have the least post-processing to crush sounds together. What that helps do is preserve all sounds that are being heard, even if they're very, very quiet. This preset is gonna be a lot louder than the others. Guns are gonna be loud. The alerts like ring closing is going to be very loud. Using this audio preset assures that no audio cues, if they're there, are going to get buried under louder sounds. The other extreme of audio presets is PC. If you look at the tooltips for either of these presets, you'll see them talking about it in terms of dynamic range. When anything is talked about in dynamic range, that means how quiet, how loud. So home theater is described as having the most dynamic range, while PC is described as having the tightest dynamic range. That means that loud sounds and quiet sounds are going to be about the same volume, but it's important to know that I don't think that this happens at the audio engine level. So if you have a quiet sound, again, happening under a loud sound, you might miss it. Settings like PC are going to be really good for solos players because there's not a lot of other sounds happening when you're moving around the map and fighting one person. Using a preset like PC that's super compressed when you're in a squad scenario, you could lose some audio cues. I highly recommend you try both of these presets to see what your ears and headset like the most. These are the two extremes as well, so you can choose one in between, but I didn't really test those. The other thing we can play with that I mentioned in the previous video, which I'll link down below because I went into great detail, is Dolby Atmos. Now, this is only available on Xbox and PC. Again, I describe how to enable that below. I'm running performance mode, which doesn't enable any kind of equalization. It dedicates all of Dolby's power to location. If any of the spatial tools were to integrate, it would be Dolby Atmos because they do advertise it. I don't think a company like that would go around advertising integration if it didn't do it. If y'all use a different type of spatial audio like Sonnar or something, let me know in the comments below or join the Discord and let me know. I'm always looking to experiment with new stuff, but at least on day one, the best use case that I'm using right now, I'm using home theater and Dolby Atmos. I prefer the broad, loud soundstage as I'm pretty hard of hearing. If you do like the compressed sound of Loudness EQ or any of the boosted settings from Verdansk, I highly recommend trying the PC setting. I have a good understanding of systems and like how things work, signal flow, but the real audio wizard is my friend Lucifer192. I'll link his Twitch and his YouTube down below. He's working on a special Equalizer APO configuration that's really going to bring the best sound that we can out of the game. That's going to be all for today, just a short video. Don't use Loudness EQ. You can if you want. There's a better way to do it. That's using the PC setting. Home theater is the least doctored and it gives you the most chances of hearing a sound. Using either of those with Dolby Atmos is going to be much easier to locate where a player is. Loudness EQ suffered from a lack of directionality and Dolby really helps that. If this video helped you out, like the video, click the bell and subscribe so you know when I upload another one. On Friday, I'm going to be dropping a whole new set of filters for Warzone. Unfortunately, Battlestate Games got pretty big mad at me for fixing that Tarkov lighting, so we're not going to touch that one. If you have other games and filters you want, join the Discord, let me know. And until the next video, I'll see you guys later. Peace.